Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. Of course, the brothers Maxon here with you. I'm Nate, that's Aaron.
Hello, everybody.
We're out here living the wild weather of Ohio the past few days. One day it's 75 and breezy. The next day it's 32.
Raining.
Yeah, tomorrow, of course. And what happens here where we live in Ohio is our town is kind of in a valley. So a lot of times you'll see it's going to be super severe weather predicted. And then it comes here and it kind of hooks south and hooks north, and we don't get so bad. But the people around here still get all worked up like it's going to be the apocalypse.
You know what's actually helped it?
What's that?
You know what's actually helped? Like, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard people that kind of know what they're talking about. Those windmills help, apparently.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I mean they're
some shit off, so it's like, all right.
Shifting the stream or whatever. Yeah, I can see that because we are in kind of a windmill county here as well. But yeah, anyway, enough about the weather, as they say. This week, Clash of the Champions 6, as we continue our series on the Clash of the Champions, April 2nd, 1989, Louisiana Superdome. Same day as WrestleMania 5.
Clash of the Champions 6, the Ragin Cajun, also titled, it's lesser known, what do you call that after something, like, where it's Ragin Cajun, like, the lesser known tagline or whatever, the show that got George Scott fired. This is the show that got George Scott fired. Do you know the story of that?
I do not.
They were going to have the 2 out of 3 falls match on this Ragin' Cajun,
right.
Clash of the Champions, and he did not want to advertise it as much. Like, this is one of the lowest rating clashes ever, and he didn't want to advertise it because Steamboat and Flair were doing house show matches, and he said, well, if we advertise it on TV, ticket sales are going to drop because people are like, why would we pay to go see it if we can just watch it on TV?
I think it's flawed logic, but
it's very old school, old man logic. And obviously, I mean, George Scott was a booking like an old man. Yeah, like, they thought he was going to come in 89 and be able to do what he did for the WWF in like 83 through what, like 85, 86.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, but
yeah, and
his idea was like, oh, we're going to bring in the Iron Sheik and Bob Orton Jr. And I'm not knocking those guys. It's like, that's not what they want. You know what
right.
I mean?
Yes. People don't want to see, no offense, but people don't want to see Hulk Hogan's undercard in the NWA. They just don't. But yeah, it's like you said, it's in the they only put 5,300 in the Superdome, which to me is kind of embarrassing for them as far as ticket sales go. But before we get into the show, let's get back in get in the Wayback Machine. Let's get in your DeLorean.
We can do that. And well, actually, if we go, movies or songs first.
So we're talking April 89. Let's do songs first because I have a couple of guesses.
Okay. One is a female band. That's the number 1 song. And the number 2 song in this time frame is a female solo performer.
Okay, so it's 1989. You say female solo performer. If I think 1989 female solo performer, if it's not Whitney Houston and it's not Taylor Dane, is it Whitney Houston or Taylor Dane?
Neither one of them.
Okay, so is it Madonna?
Yes.
Like a Prayer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like one of her only songs that I like. I hate Madonna, but I do like a Prayer.
I actually, Aaron and I kind of differ on Madonna. I actually like 80s and early 90s Madonna. After that, I'm out. But let's see. I'm pretty much out after she did the Evita movie. the female band though. I don't, because I was gonna say like Fine Young Cannibals or something. So you got me on the female band.
It's the Bengals, and it's that fucking Eternal Flame song, or however you say it.
Eternal Flame. Okay, yes.
Yeah, Eternal Flame. Yeah, shit song. Like,
but yeah, it was funny because like the Madonna thing. But yeah, I wasn't even thinking of the Bengals because I was like Fine Young Cannibals, Milli Vanilli.
They were in the mix. They were in the mix. They were in the mix.
I don't think the Humpty Dance came around until '90, so that wouldn't be in there.
No, the Fine Young Cannibals and Milli Vanilli, they were in the mix. They just weren't in the top two. I'm like, man, I wish they would have been because I like that shit. I never understood Milli Vanilli because, like, for one, how stupid we were that we believed like these two black German dudes. When they talked like German dudes or Eastern European guys. But when they sung, they sound like, two black guys from Detroit.
Right.
Like, how's that work? And we all believed it. And then the real Milli Vanilli put out an album and it tanked. I'm like, really? Like Milli Vanilli's music, like the music was really good. Anyway, we're gonna move on to the movies.
And by the way, just because I mentioned them too, I'm a big fan of the Fine Young Cannibals as well. I think
I like them too.
They're an underrated band. Movies. Is Rain Man still there?
Rain Man is gone.
Okay.
Thankfully.
Well, because I know that was it was a long time hit, so I didn't know if Rain Man was still hanging around or.
No, he's not. He's picked up his toothpicks and he's gone now. The first number one movie is a horror movie, and the number two movie is a comedy movie. I don't like the number one movie because I don't like the guy's books or movies. Really, there might be one or two that I like.
But you kind of gave it away to me now.
Yeah, I'm giving you a bit of a hint there.
Yes, number one's probably Pet Sematary.
It is. Pet Sematary is number one. And I was going to ask you this because you're smarter than me. I've always spelled cemetery with a C.
Yes, it is spelled with a C.
But Pet Sematary is spelled with an S.
And that's because I don't know if he was just trying for like a weird factor or whatever, but it's pretty much like the sign at the Pet Cemetery. Whoever painted the sign painted it with an S, if I remember correctly.
Okay. That's
why it's just a stylistic thing.
I don't like that guy. Ooh, it's a lamp. I don't like the guy. I like, I thought The Stand was good, that miniseries, The Stand.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was cool. And then, like, Who Made Who, I don't even think was a book. Or Maximum Overdrive, I don't even think that was a book. I think that was just a movie.
I think it was just a movie.
I like that movie. Other than that, it's like, fuck off. And like I said, number two is a comedy, and I really like it. It's a great movie.
Man, I don't know.
The number two movie.
I'm not even competent enough to take a guess.
Yeah, well, the number two movie in America was Major League. I love that fucking movie.
Okay.
It's a fantastic film. I even like the second one. It's not as good, but that first one's fucking great.
Yeah, the first two Major Leagues are fantastic comedy movies.
Yeah, that first one's like Behringer, fucking Charlie Sheen, Wesley Snipes, Corbin Burnett. It's like, this fucking movie's loaded, man.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a great fucking movie. Randy Quaid and his little fans, like, they're funny. Yeah, so that's what's going on. You guys are driving around listening to the Bengals and Madonna and watching Pet Sematary and Major League.
And some of them are watching Clash of the Champions 6, Ragin Cajun, and most of them are watching WrestleMania 5. The Mega Powers explode. So this show starts off, we get a recap from what happened at the Chi-Town Rumble. Obviously, last Clash, we were leading into that, but everything that went down with Flair and Steamboat. Jim Ross and Michael Hayes on commentary. They're in New Orleans, and this was the debut of the new music and the new kind of stylistic look for the intro to the Clash of Champions.
Yeah.
That music that kind of became synonymous with WCW TBS for quite a few years, actually.
Yeah. And it is what it is. And like I said, I always liked, like, sometimes I think shows look too polished now, obviously, and everything looks the same. It's too bright, stuff like that. But I thought, I was like, this show kind of looks like shit. It looks bad. I thought, at least when they were showing the commentators and stuff. But like you said, it's Michael Hayes and Jim Ross, and they're being very mindful of their environment. I will say that with some of this stuff, like having Mike Hayes on commentary and Jim Ross out there, and they know where they're at, so
they know, and we'll get to it later. But they know
they're in
that
the Mid-South area.
Yeah, that's what I say. We'll get to it later, but they know that having a match between Junkyard Dog and Butch Reed is going to mean something.
Yeah,
to this fan base. They then show us that the legends of professional wrestling have gathered in New Orleans for this event. I think we saw
Jim Ross say they were at Doggies. Was that what he said the name of the restaurant was?
Something like that, yeah, like the Doggies or Mr. Doggies or something.
Having an exclusive dinner at Doggies.
Luthez and Gene Kaniski.
Luthez was there, Gene Kaniski, Pat O'Connor, Harley Race, Terry Funk.
Phil Mushnick was there, but he didn't actually know where he was.
Phil Mushnick. Who else? Buddy Rogers.
Yeah, Buddy Rogers.
They were all there. All the former NWA champions, Dory Funk Jr. They were all there.
One thing you got to give Buddy Rogers credit for. He looked pimp to the very end. He always made sure every hair was in place and the suit looked good and the rings were on. I mean, say what you want, but the man, when he was in public to the very end, he looked like fucking Buddy Rogers.
Yep. And he has, in my opinion, the first great line in the history of professional wrestling.
To a nicer guy, it couldn't
have happened. There might be people that said some shit before that we just never heard because it was never recorded. But I'm like, that's the first, in my opinion, heel promo.
Yeah, the first great heel line. Yeah.
Yeah. To a nicer guy, it couldn't happen. But yeah, it's like all those legends are there, and it's the one thing one thing I always said about a couple things I always said about WCW, at least, was they acknowledged promotions outside of themselves, and foreign, like Japan, and even when Hogan came in, they were like, this guy's a however many time WWF champion, that type of thing. So they'd acknowledge things outside of their company, and they'd also at least acknowledge their past. Vince never wanted to acknowledge even his past, even his own past.
Right.
So that's one thing I'll give it. They treated it more like a sport than Vince did, obviously, but and then we get Jim Herd cutting his little promo. That fucking moron.
What I thought about when I think about this a lot now when I see TV shows that because you and I are both kind of the same. We watch the modern product, but if we're going to sit down and watch something at night, I'm going to be watching something from the 80s or 90s. That's just the way it is, But when I see stuff like this and I see them acknowledging a legend, it makes me feel old because now we're 2 generations of legends away from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Buddy Rogers to Ric Flair to Steve Austin to John Cena. We're so far removed
Like
now
I think
from
the
that.
only people alive at that table now are fucking Dory and Jim Hurd. Pretty sure everybody else is dead.
I think you're right. I thought Jim Hurd was dead. I guess is Jim
No,
Hurd
Jim
still
Hurd's still
alive?
alive. He's still alive. Still around. He's ancient as ancient, but he's still alive. Conrad Thompson got an interview with him a couple like 2 years back.
Damn, this son bitch is 86. All right.
He's still around though.
I thought
You know what they say.
I'm
You know
like
what they say,
Sherry.
man. Oh,
I'm
what
like
they
Sherry with
say.
Bischoff. Oh shit, I thought you were
I thought you
gone.
were gone. You know what they say. Only the good die young. My
Yes.
two favorite things about that guy is Flair like destroying him in his book, and Jim Cornette saying he wanted to walk in there with like a starter pistol or blanks or whatever and shoot at him, and Bobby Eaton being like, "God damn, Jim, however many people hate him, he might have like an actual gun in his desk. You might not want to do
Yeah, you might not want to do that.
that."
After Jim Hurd makes his statement about WCW and the legends, we have our opening contest on this event. Really good. And a lot of times we've been watching these clashes, and I've said that match was too long. That match was too long. I say that a lot because, first of all, I'm not a humongous fan of really, really long wrestling matches anyway.
No.
Unless it's super good. This match, I was okay with the fact that it was 20 minutes long. This match was super good. It's the Midnight Express versus the Samoan SWAT team.
Yes, I enjoyed it, and it was if you guys don't know, the Samoan SWAT team is Samu and Fatu, the head shrinkers, eventually in the WWF. And Paulie is their manager, so they're still doing the Paulie versus Jim Cornette saga.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it's a really good match. 4 super talented guys.
I want to clarify
Good.
something if I can, just real quick. Because
Sure.
I know I've said it a few times on the show in the past, and I said it again tonight. When I say I'm not a fan of really long wrestling matches, I should say I like a really I can get into a long wrestling match if it's really good. I guess what I should say is I'm not going to sit and watch a long wrestling match again, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if I watch Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat wrestle for an hour live and I can go, wow, that was fucking great. What a good match. I'm probably not going to sit and watch them wrestle that match for an hour again, is all I'm saying. Like, if they can hook me with the drama, because I do think some matches are obnoxiously long, like this match on this show. We'll get to that. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. Like, I didn't want people out there going, oh, this guy just likes like 10-minute matches. That's not what I'm saying. If you can keep me hooked for 45 minutes, good on you. But it's tough to keep me hooked for 45 minutes. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but.
All right. Like you said, it's like I have some notes on the match or whatever, but that's not what these clashes like. That's not what we were wanting to do with these. It was more
Right.
like a study of our promotion and the guys involved in it and everything. Obviously they couldn't use it on here, but I always thought it was kind of cool that the SST came out to the Halloween theme,
Mm-hmm.
like the theme to Halloween. And I think I posed this question last week about the Fantastics, so I wanted to pose it about this. Obviously, and I think it's going to happen eventually. I don't know when, but obviously the Midnight Express is eventually going to go into the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
But the question I was going to ask is, do you think just the team of Samu and Fat, and I know Rakishi's already gone in, But the team of like the SST Head Shrinkers, do you think they're a Hall of Fame worthy team?
Yes. And the reason I
I
say
think so
that
too.
is they had one of the better runs of any act in the late days of World Class. And then they had this run in the NWA, which they banged out some really good fucking matches in the NWA. And then in the WWF, they were a successful team during the downtime, the down period of the early to mid 90s,
I
but
would,
they
I,
were tag team
oh,
champions.
and I was gonna say that I think at a point in that company, they were kind of like, I don't want to say like a cornerstone, but they were, because the
They
corner,
were
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They
they were
were they were they
consistently there.
they were like the foundation of it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like, oh man, these guys are consistently great. They're always having good fucking banger matches. I never saw them do anything bad. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And same way with them here. Like Heyman with them, like Paulie Dangerously in the SST. I thought it was like a cool fucking combination. And looking at it then to seeing where you're at now, it's like,
Yeah, we've talked about that on the show before. Paul Heyman's been part of the bloodline
yeah,
for
like
for
kids might be like,
30
why is
almost
that?
30 years.
Yeah, kids now that don't know about it might be like, why is that fucking fat white Paul Heyman guy with all these badass Samoan guys or whatever? It's like he's been doing that shit forever, man.
Yeah, he's part of the family, baby.
Yeah, he was around when fucking Roman Reigns was born. You know, so it's like it's all history on that, and I just think
I think
I
they
know we're
should
going to
do they
talk
should
about
do that. They should be like, we as the bloodline also want to honor our white supervisor or white managers or whatever, and like we honor Buddy Jack Roberts. We honor the big kahuna.
Sir
Oliver
Oliver
Humperdinck.
Humperdinck and
And
the
Paul
King
Heyman.
and King White Paul Heyman,
The big kahuna.
the big Kahuna. But yeah, it's like I said, I think they're, I hate to call them underrated, but I think they're a forgotten tag team
Yes.
that
Not
should be talked about
underrated,
more.
but yes, not underrated, but underappreciated and for kind of forgotten. Um,
I know Samu had his problems, and that was part of it. But yeah, I just think they're kind of a forgotten team. They were really fucking good.
the match is, like I said, it's about 20 minutes. Really good tag match. In the end, we get some distractions with some confrontation between Cornette and Heyman. So it looks like Bobby Eaton has the match won, but Fatu nails Bobby Eaton with Paulie's phone, and Fatu, or I think Samu actually pins Fatu, or Samu pins Fatu. Samu pins Eaton, and the SST go over in this match.
Yeah, yeah. Not that it matters, but Fatu hits, or Samu hits Eaton with the phone, and Fatu pins him, and the SST win.
And then if
And
last night,
the crowd was pissed.
If last night, March 31st, 2025, at about 11 p.m. Eastern Time, anybody heard from anywhere me going, yeah, it's because of the next thing. Because if you know me, you know how much I love fucking Muda, especially this Muda and Gary Hart. Muda, like, I remember watching WCW when we were kids. And like Aaron's brought up before, I've always been a bigger WWF guy. And I always watched the Clashes of the Champions because, like we've talked about in the past, it was like getting to watch a pay-per-view on TV, and it was a promotion that wasn't the WWF, and I liked to check out WCW. And Ric Flair was cool, and Lex Luger's gonna be cool. I don't think Lex Luger had captured my imagination by this point when I was like 10 years old or whatever. But man, fucking Muda jumped off the fucking screen to me. Muda's fucking cool. Muda is fucking cool, and Gary Hart is fucking cool, and I love the Pearl of the Orient and Gary Hart.
And we've talked about Muda before, and there was like a point where I said like, honestly, like I there was a point where I said I thought Muda was a little overrated. And I remember, I think it was like you and Kyle were on the show, and that was like the worst thing I could ever say.
Well, and
And when I say, and like going back on it, was saying like overrated, it's like maybe that wasn't the right word,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
But there's what I was meaning to say was there's Japanese wrestlers that I liked more than Muda.
Mm-hmm.
Like Muda's great. Don't get me like I even
Right.
like when he came out, I was like, oh man, the fucking entrance is cool. You know, like where they had like the laser pointer things doing their
Mhm.
shit and all that, and I'm not trying to.
And I love.
You know, how
That's okay. I love listening to
I
Gary Michael Capetta introduce him, and
yeah. So like I guess, and it was so long ago that people probably haven't even listened to the show. This was back in the prehistoric times where I said it. And what I was trying to just say was like in the scheme of Japanese wrestlers, he's not like my number one guy.
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
But
and that's
in no way
fine.
am I saying that he's terrible.
No,
It so I just wanted to put that out there. But
I like Muda so much that everybody hears me say all the time I don't really follow Japanese wrestling. I've gone out of my way his whole career to follow Muda. Like, I might not watch a lot of Japanese wrestling, but I watch whatever's going on with Muda because he is my favorite Japanese wrestler of all time.
yeah.
So,
But if you told me, hey, you can only watch like one Japanese wrestler's match, and you got to pick between like Muda and Liger, so I'm gonna watch Liger.
right.
Well, that just he does the style that I like, you know.
And again, I think
But
it's just because this era WCW Muda, like this 89, 90 Muda, just captured my imagination as a kid,
yeah,
and it's always
and
stuck with me.
that's what I was trying to get at is like if you take that dude and put him in the States, it's like Jesus Christ, this isn't like anything else of it. Like he's the Sabu of his era.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like nobody else is doing this shit. But if you would tell me now, like if you took like 96, 95 Aaron and put Sabu in front of me, I'd be like, Jesus Christ, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. You know?
Right.
But now in 2025, you told me to pick and say you can only watch Sabu or Rob Van Dam. I'm gonna prefer to watch Rob Van Dam, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
you can only watch Sabu, or you can watch Perry Saturn. I might pick Perry Saturn. You know what I mean? But anyway,
well, Muda has his match here. He's out with Gary Hart, of course, and everybody knows how much I love Gary Hart. Even I mean, you know, I always do the comedy routine with him. Like, that's my Latin Al Perez. That's my big black Abdullah the Butcher.
Fantastic.
It is fantastic. Like, I'm doing a caricature, but it is like the imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I fucking love Gary Hart. Anyway, he might be my second favorite manager behind Heenan. Well, Cornette. I don't know. Gary Hart's up there. But anyway.
Can I tell you that Muda made me laugh?
When Steve Casey walked into the mist.
And like
because I wrote
blew
that
his
down.
mist, and like Muda's in his trance, and then he blows his mist, and then Steve Casey tries to walk up on him, and Muda just immediately blows mist in his face. I was like, ha, 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 that's funny.
One thing I did write down here is between when was that last Clash we watched was in February, right? And this is April. Man, Steve Casey has obviously gotten on the gas. Because because his body looked.
It didn't make it. It didn't make him any better though.
No, it didn't make him any better, but his body looked completely fucking different from 2 months ago when we watched that other. Like in the last show, he was a little pudgier and everything, and like when they first like had that the far shot or whatever, I didn't think it was Stephen Casey because it didn't look like him from 2 months ago. But anyway,
I saw it and immediately knew it was Stephen Casey. That dude's. My note is Steve Casey is more boring than a British drama. I fucking hate that guy, man. He is so boring, and they were just trying so hard to do something with him. And apparently, he was liked in a lot. He was apparently so liked. Did you notice or hear it on commentary about how much this guy was probably liked in the locker room?
I don't think so.
Because in the like during the match, Mike Hayes accidentally calls him Chopper. And JR's like, yeah, that's what they call him in the locker room. They call this guy Chopper. So like that was apparently like he was liked enough to get like, you know, a nickname and hey Chopper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm assuming he probably hit stiff chops, you know.
Right.
That's how he got the name. Somebody saw something in the guy, or a couple people saw something in the guy. I don't see anything.
Him and Scott Casey weren't related, were they? I'm pleading stupid here.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Scott Casey had a little run in the WWF after World Class. But
I didn't mind Scott Casey, but Steve Casey's. He's a
Muda beats
Spartan
Steve
Church.
Muda beats Steve Casey in this match with what most of the people in that arena was probably the first time they've ever seen a fucking moonsault, and it was great.
They didn't know what to call it.
Yeah, Jim Ross said a backflip kind of thing.
I think he called it a blinded back somersault or something. I don't know what the fuck he called it. But to me, do you know what the most impressive thing to me in the match was?
What's that?
Fucking Muda hitting that springboard back elbow or whatever on the fucking floor.
Yeah.
That was when I saw that I was like, God damn, that was fucking impressive. Like he did that on the fucking solid arena floor. I'm like, that's some good shit.
With they looked fucking effortless.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, I can dig it.
Yeah, so I'm excited now because we've seen the debut of Muda, which is probably the thing I was actually the most excited about on this whole show. But yeah, like I said, Muda wins with the moonsault. Then, you can say whatever the fuck you want about the fact that he was the junk food dog at this point. He put on the weight.
Nobody's going to dog the guy to me.
He didn't, whatever. Anyway, out comes a man who is still one of the biggest balls of charisma you have ever seen in your life.
He came out with his own second line. I'm like, this is fucking awesome, man.
Of course, we're talking about the Junkyard Dog. I'm with Aaron, though. I'm with you. I don't like it when people hate on the dog. Even when he was out of shape and stuff, he was still entertaining as fuck.
It's like I've tried to say, like, kind of like with musicians. Like, you can maybe take away, like, maybe their stage performance, like the concert they put on. But to me, you can never take away their ability to sing. You know what I mean? Unless they get, like, vocal damage or whatever. Like Rod Stewart, he physically can't sing like he used to sing because he has like actual vocal cord damage. So I don't know if this is gonna make sense what I'm gonna say, but like stage presence, concert wise or whatever, like Johnny Cash had to cut it back, But when he would put out one of those American recording things, if you're listening to it, you're like, this is fantastic. Still, you never take that away from that guy. You
Well,
know?
and a really good
Mick Jagger might look ridiculous up on stage being the age he is, but he's still singing it. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
And that's how I kind of feel with wrestlers that are kind of like yeah. Oh, is JYD off a step, and is he not as muscular as he used to be? Sure, but he's still charismatic as fuck. And at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Right, and he does what a good pro wrestler does too, in that just like the times, excuse me, the times we've seen like the Rock and Roll Express in an indie show, right? Or when you go back to, as we were watching in the last couple of clashes, when you go back to like an Ivan Koloff who's later in his career, at a certain point, this gets back to your music analogy, you just play the hits. You know what I mean? You're JYD, you go out, you're not going to do anything new. You're not innovating at this point. You're not doing anything new. You're going to go out and you're going to give the people what they know and what they love. Play the fucking hits.
Do that big long second line entrance. That entrance took forever, but you know what? The people dug it because he was dancing,
Mm-hmm.
and you bring out a second line band in New Orleans, people are gonna lose their shit. You know what I mean? Because that's their culture. They probably haven't seen JYD in the Superdome in how many fucking years,
Right.
you know? And if you look out in the crowd, um, even the little kids, like little black kids, little white kids, they were all dancing and shit. It's like people were jacked about it. The match kind of sucked,
Yeah.
you know, but it didn't even like the match was a second thought, you know?
Mm-hmm. The match, of course, is as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, because they knew in New Orleans it was going to go over well because of the rivalry between these two guys just maybe 5 years prior, 5, 6 years prior. It's JYD versus Butch Reed. Butch Reed is now managed by Hiro Matsuda, which doesn't make any sense, but
Well,
whatever.
no, it's at this point the Horsemen were done
Mm-hmm.
because Arn and Tully left. So this was when they were trying to do that because they couldn't do the Horsemen anymore. They were trying to do that. What was it like? Oh, so fuck. What did they call it? Yeah, like the Yamuka Corporation or whatever.
Yeah, because the
It was
whole
like
gimmick was Japan is buying all these American companies.
yeah, like Flair was in it, and Butch Reed was in it, Mike Hayes was in it. I think they tried to put like Kendall in it. There's all these different things, but I'm not saying it was great. But Matsuda, they were trying to push Matsuda. They were basically trying to replace JJ because they lost him with Hiro Matsuda.
Mm-hmm.
And it was supposed to be the Japanese greed was coming in and buying the corporations and
I
all
had
that
to
shit. So
I had to look it up just because I couldn't remember the name. The Yamasaki Corporation.
yeah, it was close. The Yamasaki Corporation. Does it tell you who the members were? Was I right?
Let me see. Hold on just a second. Let me click the link.
Should be a Wikipedia about it.
Well, there is. It's well, I looked up Hiro Matsuda's
Oh,
thing, and then it says as a result of the hiring Matsuda as their new manager, the Horsemen changed their name to the Yamazaki Corporation. Barry Windham left the group. Obviously, we know that. Kendall, Michael Hayes,
yeah.
Ric Flair,
in there.
Butch Reed, and that's all they have listed here.
Right.
But I know it's gonna wind up kind of like there's gonna be, because by the end of the year we're gonna have the JTEX Corporation with Terry Funk involved. But that's neither here nor there right now.
Yeah, they just switched their Japanese. But
During the
Butch Reed looks like a fucking $1 million, man. I wish that dude wouldn't have been his own fucking worst enemy.
Yeah, because he could have been right there with Ron Simmons, to be honest with you, right there with Ron Simmons through WCW. And then also, I mean, I think you could have worked Butch Reed into the Nation.
Yeah.
and maybe even past the nation, because him and Ron, I think, are right around the same age. So it's not like it's not like he had aged out.
Yeah, he just fucked himself over with like he was. If you believe the story that's been told for years, if he would have showed up for fucking work, we wouldn't have the honky tonk man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That was supposed to be him, and like he's great. I thought he was a good. Obviously, I think he was a good worker. Like when him and Ron were in Doom, you know, they kept up with the Steiners.
Yep.
They just
One of my favorite
they
tag
had
teams, man.
yeah had great matches and shit. But it's like that dude could not get out of his own way. He should have been a much bigger deal than what he was.
Jim Ross and Michael Hayes during commentary on this match talk about how the NWA is going to be heading up to their first show in like New Haven, Connecticut. Of course, JR has to say, we got lots of fans up in Stamford. They're going to come see the NWA in New Haven, Connecticut. But so they got to take the jabs. That's fine. Matsuda tries to distract the referees up on the apron. Of course, this is the old finish. You know, one of the tried and true finishes in pro wrestling. The referee is Matsuda's trying to distract the referee. JYD reverses a Butch Reed into Matsuda, knocks him off the apron. As after the collision, JYD with the roll up and pins Butch Reed, and everybody in the Superdome gets to be happy that JYD has picked up a victory.
Yes. It's funny they're knocking. Oh, we got a lot of fans up in Connecticut. It's like, well, a lot of those fans are actually in New Jersey right now. Because they're in a full building. Sorry. And I'm not even, I'm saying like just the contrast to what was going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, oh yeah.
It's like they had like 50, what'd you say, 5,300 people in
50
in it?
Yeah, 53. Yeah, 5,300.
I'm gonna look something up because I forgot to write it down.
This is the
but it made me laugh.
This is the epitome of this. We're still in the time frame of the WWF being ingrained into the American pop culture. You know, Hulkamania and the Macho Man and Andre the Giant, and you know, it's a part of American mainstream culture at this point. The WWF, and I'm not knocking the NWA; they're doing their thing, but I don't know. Maybe you're shooting too high when you're trying to take shots.
Yeah, and it's like, kind of like what I've said about AEW or just any company. It's like if you can't totally believe that you're gonna fill that building, don't
try
book
to
that building.
Don't book the building.
Yeah, but you said they had 5,300 people.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the history of the Superdome, the record attendance for the Superdome is and what we say the show was April
89.
April 2nd,
mm-hmm.
89. I know it's a different era or whatever, but April 8th, 2018, the record attendance is WrestleMania 34, and it's 78,133.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you watch those fucking world-class championship wrestling Parade of Champions shows where they were still doing Texas Stadium. And I understand they never filled it, but at least like maybe like 83, 84, they would put enough people in it, maybe like 30,000 or something, where it didn't look,
shoot half of it.
Yes, you could shoot half of it, didn't look empty on TV. They would still try to do it in like 87, and there'd be like 6,000 people in a 70,000 people arena, and they wouldn't. There was no way to make it dark because the show's during the day in Texas.
And they didn't
So-
even ask everybody to gather up.
No,
Like, gather up. Oh, you're sitting all the way up there? Stay there.
that's the seat you paid for. That's where you get to sit.
It's like, gather up, motherfuckers. I need
But
to
yeah,
cluster you.
just it's like it looks so pathetic. It looks so pathetic.
I think didn't even you and I, was it you and I once that went to like a WWE show or a WWF show, and it might even been a house show, or was it? I thought there was a show where you and I went to where they told everybody to move down.
It was TNA.
Yeah, it was TNA. That's
It
it.
wasn't WWE because, like I've said on the show, maybe on this show or reliving the extreme, folks, we live close to Fort Wayne, Indiana. The Fort Wayne Memorial, the War Memorial Coliseum, has an arena, and then it has a smaller, I guess, convention center complex or whatever. And that's how I always say the way the Fort Wayne Coliseum goes is the way WWE business is, because if we go and it's in the big arena, business is good, but it's WWE. So if we go and it's in the smaller convention center, business is down because they don't book an arena that's too big for what they're going to sell. And
it was that TNA show.
Vince was smart enough to do that with his business. Like, business was down, and he said, well, let's create a show with a smaller studio type, hey, Monday Night Raw in the Manhattan Center. We're not going to take Monday Night Raw to the fucking Madison Square Garden in 1994. We're going to take it to this fucking these smaller arenas. Yes, the Fernwood Gardens or Poughkeepsie, that arena in Poughkeepsie, New York. Like, fill the arena you can fill to make it look full on TV. It doesn't matter how many people are there if it looks full.
That's what I'm saying. The show looked like shit.
The ECW arena looks great. There's only 1,000 people there, but it looks great on TV. You know what I mean?
And they're having a good time.
Yeah.
But yeah, this thing looks just like shit. I'm sorry, but just the show itself. But anyway.
Well, like I said, JYD gets the victory here, and then I thought I fucked up. I thought something happened because they said up next, it's Bob Orton and Dick Murdoch.
No, they cut 2 matches out of this. They cut Dick Murdoch and Bob Orton. I don't know if it's the WWE Network that did it.
Actually, so I had to go and look. I'm not trying to cut you off.
It's all right. They cut out Luger and Jack Victory, too.
Which Sting and Rip Morgan and Lex Luger and Jack Victory were actually dark. So they weren't on the TV broadcast. But because they said up next, Bob Orton and Dick Murdoch, and then we came back and it was Gilbert and Steiner versus the Varsity Club, I was like, what happened? So I rewound it to see if I missed something, and I didn't. So then I looked on Wikipedia, and actually the WWE Network, for some reason, cuts out Bob Orton defeating Dick Murdoch in 33 seconds. Mike Rotunda and Steve Williams defeating the Road Warriors in 11 minutes and 40 seconds for the NWA World Tag Team Championship. And Ranger Ross defeating the Iron Sheik.
Oh, I understand that.
But yeah, the WWE Network, for some unknown reason, cuts out these 3 matches. So I wasn't insane. Neither were you. They did actually cut out 3 matches from the show. I don't know why.
They don't cut out any other, like, have you seen Dick Murdoch on other stuff?
Yeah.
All right. Like, I was like, maybe, like, part of me was like he doesn't have the greatest.
No, you can go on there right now and watch the Dick Murdoch and Adrian Adonis stuff on TNT.
Oh, that's true. I watched that. So I was like, I don't know why they did it. So weird.
Yeah.
What they do.
Unless the video quality sucked. I don't know. But
they don't do that on other stuff. They just say it's like, not our fault. Like, they cut out like, remember when Goldust did the nurse thing with, like, Luna?
Yeah.
They cut that out because they said Goldust was in blackface because he was doing that Forever Unchained thing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then I watched, like, a Raw later on, and he was still...
Yeah. They do
doing the Afro Flash Funk thing.
Yep, because there's literally a match between him and Flash Funk where he comes out with the boombox and the afro and the
Afro,
blackface.
and it's like that's actual blackface. You know what I mean?
Yeah, who
But
fucking
him being
knows?
in the nurse thing, he was just wearing his Forever Unchained paint. Like, what is going on? But anyway,
the next match they show us on this show is Dan Spivey and Kevin Sullivan against Rick Steiner and Eddie Gilbert.
This is Discount Varsity Club.
United States.
You know me. I like the Varsity Club. This is Discount Varsity Club. It's like, oh, you're stretching here, man.
Why'd they give us this match and not the World Tag match between Rotunda and Williams versus Animal and Hawk? But anyway, Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner win. Missy Hyatt's there. They wind up getting the victory because of Missy's Gucci bag with the interference. Sullivan and Spivey beat down Eddie Gilbert after the match. Rick Steiner kind of saves the day. We're headed toward obviously the Robin Green stuff here. Coming up very soon, which is some fun stuff. And Rick Steiner's always involved in the fun stuff. But
other than Rick, I don't like anything about this. Like, I don't enjoy Dan Spivey unless he's Waylon Mercy.
Mm-hmm. Squish him like that bug. Squish him like a bug. Like this.
Like, I'm not a big Dan Spivey fan. Like, I didn't mind him in the Skyscrapers or whatever, but like, part of me is like, man, imagine if we could have got Sid Vicious and Mark Calloway as the Skyscrapers.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been fucking 10 times better. But I don't. So this is like Discount Varsity Club to me. And I know it's going to sound weird when I say I don't like anything about this because Eddie's in it. And I'm a big Eddie Gilbert fan. But I don't want to see. I don't like Eddie. I never wanted to see Eddie Gilbert as a babyface.
Nah, he's not. He's not a good babyface. That guy is
not a fucking babyface.
Nope, you're absolutely right.
And it's going to sound silly when I say it, but he's too small to be a babyface.
Yeah, just like, I mean, and I can't name.
I know Ricky, like he's like the same size as Ricky Morton, but it's a different type of guy.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Eric Embry, I don't like Eric Embry as a babyface. Chris Candido, I don't like Chris Candido as a babyface. There's just a certain body type and attitude that you want to see as a fucking heel.
Yeah,
this is what it is.
And I don't want to see Missy Hyatt as a babyface.
Right. No, I totally agree. Totally.
She should be the complete hot bitch. And I'm not saying that trying to be derogatory. You know what I mean? But she should be the chick that's like, she should be the chick that none of you are going to be able to fuck me.
Mm-hmm.
And he should be the guy that's able to do it and be like, I'm the king shit. And then at the end of the day, he's going to pussyfoot run away.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
Yeah. I don't like it was weird. I think it's coming up. It's weird when he's like feuding with Muda and he's the baby face. And I was just like, that guy is not a fucking face at all. What are you doing?
He wants to be. That's why.
I know he does. He wants to be Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, stop it. Just embrace what you are.
All right. Now we move into the main event of this Clash of the Champions. It is a rematch from of course, from Chi-Town Rumble, the NWA World Championship. It is Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat. And of course, the match is going to be great.
Yeah, and Ricky Steamboat is accompanied by Bonnie and his fucking baby.
I put Ricky is out here with his wife and baby again, and this time look, they put a costume on the baby.
Yeah, that's fucking baby. And she's dressed again like a prom queen. You are not Miss Elizabeth, Bonnie.
And I also wrote down This is a wrestling company, but it is part of a major television production company, right?
Yep.
Turner Broadcasting, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This is the main event of your big show you're putting up against WrestleMania, right?
This guy is your champion. I
And
know where
that's
you're going.
no, you don't know where I'm
Okay.
going. It's a main event. You're up against WrestleMania. You are a major league professional wrestling company on a major league television show, and you spelled Ric Flair RICK
That's what I'm saying. This guy's your world champion, and you fucked up his name.
on the screen. No, Steamboat's the world champion. No, Ric
Is he?
Flair.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
It's
I
okay.
misspoke.
But Ric fucking Flair, your top heel that's been in your company for fucking 20 years, and you're a major television company, and you spell Rick with a K on the big screen.
Yeah, and it wasn't even
WCW,
like the
everybody.
Cryon. It was you had to type that into a laser machine in
Yes,
1989.
yes. I'm like, oh, for
You know what I
fuck's
mean?
sake.
Like
Yes.
nobody was like that had to take time. You know what I mean? That was like a program. Like if your kids want to call it out to something, it's like an app. You know, like somebody probably like I'm just saying like it's
And it probably went through more than one person
that's what I'm saying.
that
But
still said Ric Flair, RICK.
yeah, I don't know why I said Flair was a champ, but
Oh no, that's okay. That doesn't matter. I was just mentioning the fact that this is a $1 billion television production company.
And that happens so much in WCW. Like I watched about the entire run of WCW 605 Saturday Night from that Brian Davis guy or whatever that you hooked me up with.
Yeah.
And there's an episode where Arn Anderson is defending the TV title. Like I don't know if I can't remember if he's defending or if he's in a tag team match. But they spell Arn Anderson ARNE.
Arnie Anderson.
Arnie Anderson. So yeah, it's stupid. And
well,
there's a
fucking I think it's a Clash of the Champions, so we're we're gonna see it eventually. But there's a Clash of the Champions where Steven Regal comes out and the Cryon under his name says Eric Watts. And I'm like,
whoa,
how much opposite can that be? Right.
That's more offensive than putting the K on it. It's like, I will fight you. But for this match, for everything they did wrong, they did some good stuff. Like they've pre-planned, and I'm assuming it was George Scott's idea, and whoever took over after him, I think it was a committee after him, probably Kevin Sullivan, and I don't know, maybe Gilbert was on it or whatever.
Part of it. I'm pretty sure Cornette was part of it.
I think Cornette was part of it. Gilbert was part of it. So they're gonna they're at least gonna keep their main event going on because they're planting the seeds for Terry Funk because they have Terry Funk sitting on commentary, and so I did like that obviously because I know it's coming up later on. And one of my notes is, and I don't know why I thought this was funny, and it might be because I was a little hammered at the time, but I put in my notes, man, how great was Big Hair Flair?
You're not wrong.
Yeah, because this is getting right before before fucking Herd wanted to make him Spartacus, and have him wear an earring and all that shit. And Flair, the only thing Flair like conditioned to or whatever was cutting his hair. It's like, man, Big Hair Flair was so awesome.
Yes, he was.
Short hair Flair was cool too, but it's like this Flair is like the epitome of cool Ric Flair.
It's like the least cool Ric Flair. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form dissing him. I'm not dissing the run because he's Ric Flair, so everything is great. But you said cool. What's the least cool Ric Flair?
What's that?
Dad sweat wearing yacht rock WWF 92 Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Like they'd have him wearing like the Bill Cosby fucking sweaters and I
Yeah.
don't know.
Like you look back at that run, it was cool because at the time you're like, holy shit, Ric Flair's
Ric
in the
Flair, yeah,
WWF.
yeah, absolutely. And the
But
run is great. No, I'm not dissing the run. I was just saying as far as the coolness factor of Ric Flair himself, because I love Flair, Perfect, and Bobby and all that stuff. But
yeah, but
he,
they watered down his character quite a
mhm.
bit.
They took the
Like
nature
he
boy
wasn't
out
the
of it for sure.
yeah, he wasn't the pardon the term, but he wasn't like a pussy magnet when he was in the WWF.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and
I know he was
it's just
chasing
the way
after
they
I
booked
know he
him.
was chasing after Liz or whatever, but he
They didn't
wasn't
know,
like
but no, you're right. They didn't. But Vince didn't book him like a pussy magnet. Vince booked him like Buddy Rogers. Like I'm not the pussy magnet, but I'm the greatest wrestler in the world.
yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, he wasn't in WWF. He wasn't telling. If you're 18 to 24, come on down to my hotel.
No
You
hair,
know?
it's not no hair, no flair in the WWF.
Yeah.
But yes, this is a 2 out of 3 falls match for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. I haven't watched the full match in a long time, so I did for this exercise, of course, to watch the show, and it is really good. And again, like I said earlier, I don't hate the matches. I don't hate the long matches. I just don't. I don't go out of my way to watch them a second, third, fourth, fifth time when I know it's an hour-long match. But I watched this, and it was 55 minutes and some change. There were some very, I'd say, down points where maybe it lost my attention a little bit, but there's great up points too.
You would do that if you're gonna go out there and do almost an hour.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
everybody talks about how great Sean and Brett were, but how much downtime is there in that? You know what I
I
mean?
actually, as time has gone on, I'm less of a fan of that match than I used to be.
Yeah.
Back in '96, fucking 16, 17-year-old me was totally all about that match. I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever fucking seen. When I watch it now, I realize that the fact that there were no finishes during the hour actually hurt it. But anyway,
Yeah.
I don't like Iron Man matches with like 12 finishes because it's like, well, you guys obviously could just beat each other in 5 minutes then, because that's
Yeah.
stupid too. But I'm sorry, I'm once again digressing off of the.
If we're gonna get an Iron Man match, is one of my favorite ones, and what I think is one of the most logical ones ever was Kurt and Brock when Brock was like just bashing Kurt with that
Yeah,
chair.
yeah,
He's
absolutely.
like, I'm just gonna hit this guy with this chair like 7 times and fuck him up.
You're not wrong. That is the most
just beat him.
logical one ever.
Yeah. I'll fuck this guy up. I'll take 7 DQs. Then I'll pin this guy 8 fucking times. I'm not saying that's how many times he hit him. I don't remember how many times he hit him, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that one and the 30-minute one. I don't even know what fucking pay-per-view it was, but there's a 30-minute Iron Man match with Jericho and Benoit that's fucking perfect like that too. Like the
That's the one where it was like,
psychology of it.
was that the submission one?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Nope. It's like a 30-minute, but it's an Iron Man. It's a how many finishes.
I got you. Okay.
But no, it's and I honestly I can't even remember if it's a pay-per-view. It was a pay-per-view, but it's like a
Yeah, there's so
backlash
many
or
different
something.
pay-per-views back then.
Yeah. Anyway,
But
back to this.
yeah, the main note I got out of it, other than the big hair Flair, is talking about Steamboat and how fucking great he was in this first fall. And we're brothers and we like similar stuff, but we like different types of wrestling. You know, like you might want to sit down and watch 4 hours of lucha libre, and I'm gonna want to sit down and watch 4 hours of World of Sport.
Right.
You know what I mean? And neither one are bad, but we just have different things that we like. What I put in here was like this first fall, Steamboat is like one of the only guys that I could see make a side and front face lock rest period seem fucking exciting. It's like, because that dude, knew how to move his body, knew how to use his face,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. It's just he's one of the most believable workers I've ever seen in my entire life. This
No,
Rick
you're not.
Steamboat.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And it's funny because believable is when you get down to it, like you think. Okay, this is. I'm going to get stupid here for a second. But in your time when you're watching it in real time, when you're a younger person, and I don't know about you, but my opinions have changed over the years, you know. And
Yeah.
and you're right, believable is better. I didn't think believable was better back when I was a kid or when I was a teenager. I thought more exciting was better. Now more exciting is what's more believable. If you asked me when I was like fucking 12 years old if I like Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels better, 12-year-old me would have said Shawn Michaels. What he did was quote unquote more exciting. Today,
Yeah.
I'd watch Bret Hart 10 times before I'd watch Shawn Michaels. Bret
That's
Hart's
what
my
I'm saying.
Bret Hart is my second favorite wrestler of all time at this point because he was fucking believable. Everything he fucking did was believable. And you're right, the same with Ricky Steamboat. That's why Kurt Angle's up there. That's why Kurt
Yeah.
Henning's up there, you know?
That's why I'm saying like we're kind of different wrestling fans because I was like I want to say it like you, and when I say this statement, Nate can say that I'm being honest with it. Was is Dean Malenko? Should Dean Malenko be on the list of like the top 5 greatest wrestlers of all time? Probably not. You know, but it would like if you pulled people or whatever. But Dean Malenko is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
Right. Oh yeah. It's there. We've
And
talked about that
Dean,
before. There's
everything
two
Dean
different
did looked
lists.
fucking real.
Yeah. There's two different
You know what I
lists.
mean?
There's who's the greatest and who's my favorites. You know what I mean?
Dean is on. Dean would be in my top 15 favorite wrestlers of all time, and what I
Mm-hmm.
think he did, everything he did, I thought looked fucking real and believable. And then I've had other people say, "Oh, that guy just looked like he was doing tumbling to me." It's like,
Mm-hmm.
really? I don't think that. You know, but I'd put Steamboat on the list of he might not be my favorite wrestler of all time, and Steamboat might not even be my favorite top 10 wrestlers of all time, but he is. I would put him in my top 10 most believable wrestlers of all time.
Yes.
Not to trail off too much.
Oh, but Flair pins Steamboat in the first fall.
I think he
Um,
reverses a small package or something, doesn't he?
Actually, bad on me. I didn't write it down. I just put Flair pins Steamboat first fall. And then I know Steamboat does the double chicken wing deal to make Flair submit in the second fall, which they're really trying to get this double chicken wing thing over. I don't know if that was a Steamboat thing or a George Scott thing or what, but because that plays into the finish as well.
Yeah.
Steamboat gets Flair up in the double chicken wing. Um,
And he falls back to pin him.
yeah.
Are you still talking about the second fall or the third fall now?
Oh, I was on to the third fall.
Yeah, because the third fall they go back to the double chicken wing. Steamer picks him up. He's gonna drop back, and they do kind of like you you think it's gonna be a dusty finish
Mm-hmm.
because they both kind of get fucked over because it looks like well Flair gets doubly fucked, but it looks like both of their shoulders possibly are down. Tommy Young counts the 3 count, and he doesn't see that Flair's foot is under the rope, so he missed a bunch of shit. He's apparently one of the greatest referees of all time, but he missed like 4 things in this big match, and declares that Ricky Steamboat is the winner and still the NWA champion, even though both their shoulders are down. So they both pinned each other, and Flair's foot was under the rope. And it may
I
have
don't know.
monopolized the end of the match, but
And the match was great. It's a great match. But my actually the funny thing is my biggest to me the biggest victory was the finishing maneuver and the finishing of the match, because I don't know whose idea it was, but I really like the sequence of the Steamboat interview afterwards. Because Jim Ross interviews Ricky Steamboat. Ricky Steamboat, without Jim Ross getting to ask any really like hard questions, Ricky Steamboat essentially says, "Okay, I beat you twice, Ric Flair. You were a great champion. You're a great competitor. It's time to get to the back of the line. I have other competitors that want to challenge me for the title." Jim Ross presents him with the video, and then he changes his tune and goes, "Okay, now that I've seen the video," because obviously, when you're in the match and you're wrestling the match, you don't see that Ric Flair, obviously Ricky Steamboat, if it was real, wouldn't have seen the positioning of Flair's boot. And now he's like, "Well, goddamn it, I guess you do have a case for a rematch." I just liked that they didn't just, they did the evolution of him discovering what happened during the match instead of him knowing what happened during the match, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, how his character would be too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
he's an upstanding guy, like,
yeah, it's like, hey, you know what?
well,
I know
shucks.
this guy. Yeah, I know this guy is a fucking poon hound, and I don't like him or whatever. But he's right. He got his foot under the rope. So, all right, I'm not gonna feel right knowing that I'm the champion off of a fuck up. So,
but yeah, I did think that was really effective. And whoever wanted it to play out like that was a smart move, I thought.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it. Clash 6. We're in the trilogy, the Flair Steamboat trilogy. I think this is the only one you and I are going to watch for this series, obviously.
Yeah, because they're gonna go to, what is it? A Music City Showdown. That's not a Clash.
Yes, Music City Showdown. That's a pay-per-view.
We're not gonna watch. Yeah, it's a pay-per-view.
But regardless, I'll ask you the question.
Spoiler alert: Flair wins that.
Yes, and then we move into some good shit with Ric Flair and Terry Funk, one of the best feuds ever.
We're about to get this shit fired up.
But of course, the question I ask every single time we do this, based on the last Clash to this Clash, have we taken a step back? Are we status quo, or have we taken a step forward?
For me, we've taken a step forward, because I stated it last week that I think that Clash 5 that we watched is like the worst Clash of the Champions ever. And when I say this, I'm not knocking you or whatever, but I could watch Flair and Steamboat wrestle each other all the fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like, the reason my notes, when I showed you like the handwriting of it, the reason my notes were getting worse is because I was like, this fucking thing is great. You know what I mean? So I was just hammering more beers down or whatever. So, and I also, like you said, like, we're getting the New York knockout and different other shit, so I know what's coming. So to me, it's like, I think this is much better than the last show we watched. The last show we watched was terrible.
Yeah, I agree. We have taken a step forward, and again, like I've said before, Flair and Steamboat, no, hands down, that's a fucking 5-star, whatever you want to call it, wrestling match to me too. And getting to sit back and watch it for review purposes for this show was great, and I enjoyed it. So we had a great wrestling main event. I really enjoyed the stuff with JYD. I got to see fucking Great Muta, which excited me greatly. This is a good show.
Midnight Express and
that fucking opening tag match. Yeah, I see upward mobility here, and I definitely think we have taken a big step forward from the last show.
I agree.
Well, that being said, we're going to sign off unless you have anything else to say.
I do not, sir.
All right, so check us out, WNR Podcast Network on YouTube, WNR Podcast Network on Facebook, and we are excited to continue next week with more of the Clash of the Champions series. It's going to continue every single week for the next however many weeks, other than the 1 week in June where we will have to take a quick break to do the Hall of Shame, of course, Aaron's favorite show.
Yes, I was also going to
months.
mention that later on. I need you, if you can't tonight, I need you to send me that list.
I definitely will.
It.
Yeah, 2 months in June every year. It's the Hall of Shame here on the We Can't Wrestle podcast. So we'll probably take, of course, a week break from Clash of the Champions to do that. Hey, by the time we get to that, maybe we'll have seen something on one of these Clash of the Champions that can be in the Hall of Shame. The Ding Dongs are already in.
So. Yeah, the Ding Dongs are. I think Oz might already be in it.
But yeah, we'll see you next. We'll see you next week, everybody, for Clash of the Champions 7. Excuse me. Which is Guts and Glory. Ooh, that's the one. That's the one in that Fort Bragg arena. It looks hot as fuck.
Oh, it was hot as fuck.
Like, it was like every time I see that show, I sweat watching it.
Yeah, I was going to say that shit was hot.
God damn. And then there's like a guy as the terrorist, and you're like, oh, that's poor son bitch had to wear a mask. Anyway.
It's like, oh my God.
It's like
it's all dudes. It's all dudes. This smells like balls.
Well, that's next week. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a great week, and thanks for listening to the We Can't Wrestle podcast.